Live streaming is on.
Hey, good morning, good evening, everyone. Coming to you from around the world. I'm Dan Gay, Chief Marketing Officer of BlockCerts Blockchain. I reside here in Denver today, and we've got Mr. Tim Basco, who's the Chief Executive Officer and founder of BlockCerts, who's in British Columbia and up in Victoria. Good morning to you there, Tim.
How you doing, Dan? Great to be here.
Another Friday
morning live.
I know, boy, these things just fly by. We've got Daniele. We got started here, and good evening to you in Italy there, Daniele.
Hey, Dan, I just have a problem with my laptop. While I was connecting, it crashed completely.
Oh,
Sorry.
no.
It's probably an Apple.
It must be an Apple.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Don't get started. We'll talk about positive stuff.
Yeah, you know, I've heard those are really good for keeping a door open, or lots of good things those are good for. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us today. We're going to take you through a pathway of where we've come from in the past year, and the world changes, and also what kind of emerging things have happened over the last year, and take you back a little bit so that we can talk about our pathway and everyone's path of what we've been on in this journey over the last year. And then also you'll be hearing a lot about the cloud power to the people in the future, and we'll discuss that as we get to the end here. So can't wait to go through this, and Tim's going to take us through a little bit of our journey from this past year. So
yeah, bit of a blast from the past, and it seems like a long time ago, Dan and Daniele and everybody. It seems like forever ago, actually. And it was only a year. So what I wanted to do is go back to a year and say, what were we thinking? What was it like a year ago, and what were we thinking? And we had done a couple of actually 2 World From Here's at this time last year, right before this, and we were envisioning our exit strategy. Well, here we are in the middle of massive global lockdowns. Canada is incredibly locked down right now. We can't even travel. I live on Vancouver Island, and we can't even travel off the island. So the lockdowns are amazing, amazingly tough. India is experiencing overwhelming spikes. All over the world we have, I don't know how it is there in Italy right now, Daniele.
Yeah, it's crazy because everything is being reopened as of the 26th, so a few days ago, and people getting crazy. So restaurants have started to reopen as of the 26th. And tomorrow we want to have lunch for the first time ever in the last 1.5 years at a restaurant, and everything is fully booked.
Really?
Yeah. Even though it's going to rain tomorrow, and eventually we cannot really have a lunch inside. It's getting crazy. It's getting crazy.
Yeah. It's really amazing, the difference in the world, and that's what we're going to talk about today, is what the difference is and what it means. But let's do a run through on where we were. So a year ago, April, we were envisioning our exit strategy. We were talking about small businesses having such a huge impact on jobs and running out of relief funding with small businesses. We saw Fred Schultz from Starbucks talk about what needs to happen. And of course, if you, like most of us, had Starbucks in your neighborhood or whatever, my favorite Starbucks closed down during the last year. Then we talked about our health profile and what that was going to be. And nobody really knew. Like, we didn't have a vaccine. Today, over 230 million Americans are vaccinated. We're still waiting a lot up here in Canada. I'm hoping to get mine in the next week or so. But we were still looking at what's happening. Health systems were overwhelmed, and what they were learning from the crisis. My teams in India are telling me that it's awful there, and people are not being admitted to the hospital all over again. So the second lockdown is brutal. Of course, politics, massive change there. The world looking for an exit strategy. So many things have shifted. talked about global cooperation for an exit strategy. When the governments were failing, we were talking about it failing to cooperate. We're talking about different things like what it's going to be to have global resilience. And then we moved into finance and banking, which obviously over the last year, we made a huge, huge change in. And you heard Daniele talk about it, Christoph, Mark Smedley, we've invited in the last recent area about retail banking, open banking, DeFi, everything else. And education obviously has been up and down with kids going back to school. On our in our community, we've got kids going back to school. We've got coronavirus showing up in the high schools and the grade schools, and sadly, younger children now are being affected and dying. So we're not through this yet. We talked about the environment and what coronavirus meant for climate change as airlines were grounded. We talked about what earthquakes looked like and what global things looked like for nature with this. And then we talked about, obviously, modernization, decentralized, and digitizing. And that's what we're getting to today. So back a year ago, we recognized what our core values were. What we thought the core values of the world were going to be was digital. And as we've been saying for a year now, get digital, and get digital with your finance and banking. We believe that there would be a new frontier for mortgage lenders and services in the US. So guess what? We went out and we built into a $17.6 trillion industry in the last 12 months. And we're super excited to be launching that. We saw mortgage rates drop to a record low and real estate rates go to a record high globally. This is globally. And there's some great articles in The Economist about how housing has boomed. We talked about global health identity. And obviously we felt very strongly that this idea of a COVID passport, which are now being issued for vaccinated people. I've got one from New York where my son got his vaccine and so forth. And we talked about this idea of immunity certificates and our COVID project that was going to build around these different types of projects. Then we talked about the digital business machine, the digital business work, how work was going to be different and always different from there on, with empty boardrooms and virtual summits like this political summit happening. We talked about the exit from the centralized world and all the events. During the year, we attended many virtual events. We attended two of the largest and participated in two of the largest global fintech virtual events with over, I think, Dan, I'm going to get this wrong, 3.4 million visitors, which just completely eclipsed what the physical events were. This physical event when I was there in 2019 in Singapore was 60,000 people. We ended up with millions and millions of people attending.
And Tim, they were expecting 100,000 for this event, online virtual this year, and it was over 1 million.
So we introduced the idea of the open structure organization, this organization that would be open structured and based on decentralized finance, decentralized work, and so forth. And we identified how big a change that was a year ago when fathers back in 2019 were being denied flex work and work from home. Now we've got people working solely from home and saying, we're not going back. So, you know, that exit from the centralized world that we predicted has happened. And we are now decentralized, distributed all over. And we're dealing with our new era for education. So my daughter looked like a year ago, just reminded me how she has grown. And
what a year will do.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness, for sure. And that was what we looked at. And not only that, let's look at a few images about what was going on in New York City as we were preparing for our exit, which didn't actually happen. The only thing that didn't happen there is we didn't exit the coronavirus. And we saw these sombering pictures of what it was like in New York City, in hospitals and so forth. And let's not forget, that's still happening today in parts of the world. Hospitals are overloaded. Healthcare workers are risking their lives, and they are heroes. So that was what it was like a year ago. That's a fast blast through the past year. And what I hope that does is presents to everybody how difficult a year it's been, how incredibly powerful a year it's been for us as human beings all over the world to be resilient and to show what resilience is, to believe that there would be a future, and also to take the risk, as we did at BlockCerts, to predict what that new world of a digital business birthing would be. So like a child being born, digital business has been born. So let's look at the world from here today. A year later, let's look at the world from here today and really what's going on. And I wanted to go through that fast. There were 44 slides in that deck, 44 slides a year ago, and we were just touching on main themes that we thought, well, what did we do in the last year at BlockCerts? What did we see in the world, and how did we ingrain our platform, the first decentralized distributed cloud platform on the planet for the world? How did we build it? How have we done that? And how are we going to distribute that? Well, what we believed was that these big glass towers and centralized silos of software and technology were going to go away. And they have, to a large degree. The powers are still there, but during that time, we've talked about how centralization is being attacked in Congress. We've got antitrust suits with Google, Apple. They're all over the world. You're seeing what the Chinese government is doing with Alibaba and Tencent and so forth. So this $2 trillion market of SaaS platforms was there. And we were looking at these major shifts post-COVID of how digital impacts living now, where we work, how it impacted our family, our shopping, and our delivery of goods and services. Obviously, we don't have to guess anymore. We know what all that meant. What we didn't know is that the decentralized market, the DeFi market, and the crypto digital asset market would equal the value of that technology in less than a year. It's over $2 trillion right now. We didn't know that. Right. We did know, and we built an incredible, what we call KYP, Know Your People, Product, Process, Payments, and Protocols, building from the age-old KYC AML, or Know Your Customer anti-money laundering processes, and siloed software systems that really were used by banks, financial institutions. We've completely reinvented that so that everything, what we call multi-factor authentication, is built right into the platform and the system now. So we have no more guessing about what's happening with what we called back then, and we still call today, the authenticated handshake. We re-engineered the system to match what the digital world is at BlockCerts. Why? Because you're going to need an EHR visa. You're going to need all of these different types of things in your livelihood that are going to take you out from behind the mask and put you into a world where the first thing you're doing is authenticating that you don't have COVID and you've been tested negative, that you've had a vaccine. So that's a massive change that we predicted, we built for, and it's here. Go ahead, Dan.
I was just going to say quickly, how many of us have used actual physical money here in the past, few months? I mean, the world has gone digital, including everything that we do, whether it's ordering, having things delivered to the home, but our lives are different. The way we work is different. And because of that, we need protection digitally.
That's right. That's right. And so with that, everything from our personal information management, role management, certification, all of our reporting, authentication, integrated access management, which we just launched a few days ago, tied in to your identity. So no longer do you have to go give up your identity, but you're authenticated. So you can be authenticated on a private basis with a public key. That's world changing. Yeah. We're eliminating the need for passwords. Think about that. Just that alone, I'm excited about. Believe me, I'm the guy who forgets his password all the time. It took us 8 years to figure it out, 2 years to build it, way before this, only because, yeah, exactly. There you go. We just got all your passwords, Dan.
Yeah.
The whole world got them. So it's just a new way to manage our lives, our businesses, our companies with this IAM technology. It took a huge amount of time to build. And we now have this, the only private key controlled, decentralized distributed cloud on the planet. That our BCERTin app store came live. We've got all of these apps, and I'll be the first to admit it's a new way of thinking. It is not just straightforward, boom, I can use this. But guess what? Neither was the iPhone 4. It didn't have all those apps either. It started somewhere, and look at where we're at today and what we can do with a mobile device that we couldn't do with a BlackBerry, and what happened. That's the world that we're in. This is a massive, massive shift.
Because
so
I wanted to
jump in, Daniele, please.
I just want to say something about let me call it the blockchain user experience. So right now, the tremendous development that happened all across the planet surrounding blockchain, decentralized application, Web3, and so on, it's focusing at the base layer, which is the framework. So the basic stuff are being addressed there to grant something we have never ever achieved, which is the decentralized framework that happened before in the Web 2 fashion. And obviously, user experience, it will always improve. So that's why sometimes I have people asking me why we need to have a wallet, why private key versus where we are today. Well, because decentralization has a payoff. So we need to embrace kind of thinking in a kind of decentralized mode. And for sure, user experience, user interface and interactions will improve over time. But we are the pioneers of this new world and the paradigm shift to Web 3.0. So I think it's, people should embrace it.
And thank you for bringing that up, because it reminds me way back when people were saying, what's Amazon doing and about e-commerce and retail shopping? Can you imagine shopping online now? I mean, not having shopping online, not having retail online, like literally everything. And when the book came out, The Everything Store, a few years ago, talking about Amazon and so forth, the difference it was from 2000, when that major shift took place, to what we know of today, the wealthiest man in the world and one of the most powerful companies, if not the most powerful company in the world. So when we see that, we see, as you said, what pioneering looks like. And the difference is, I think, is, as we've seen with DeFi, the speed at which it happens. That took a couple of decades. Now we're seeing these things emerge. DeFi wasn't even talked about in August of 2020. And by December and January, all you were hearing about is DeFi and a multi-billion-dollar business models emerging like that in months, not years. So the speed at which this digital transformation is happening is incredibly, incredibly powerful, right?
Absolutely. And we're going to see this year top down And again, not financial advice, not prediction. So we know that it's likely to happen. We will see a huge inflow of institutional capital in the space. So from DeFi, Bitcoin and anything and everything.
Absolutely.
Because we are living in a world on negative yields.
Yes.
And so this means that things like this needs to propel our future for the better.
Exactly. And so when we think about that, we think about work. And we went to work building BlockCertIn, one-click work for business. We've got one-click work built. We built, in this year, we built our own video platform, and we've been streaming on this since August or September of 2020. We don't have any of the technologies or tools that you hear about today. And BlockCertIn, watch for it. There will be an opportunity for everybody for free to get one-click work with every tool you need. So that $2 trillion market, these are the things I don't use anymore. I don't use Zoom. I don't use DocuSign. I don't use Dropbox. I don't use Shopify. I don't use Slack. I don't use Gmail. I don't use Whip. I don't use Teams. I don't use GoDaddy. I don't use HubSpot. I don't use Salesforce. I don't use PayPal. I don't use any of those. I don't need them. I have one click and I've got all of them. That's BlockCertIn. We built it. It's there. That's our secure virtual space platform, and it's private. You have it. You're secure. And I'm so excited about this. It has been, one person said the other day to somebody else, I had it forwarded to me, that looks like a labor of love. Well, it's a passion for sure. I don't know if I've loved the whole journey, but it's definitely been a passion to be able to say, I control and can control my own destiny, and we're giving that to the world. That's BlockCertIn, and it is so cool. What else to say? I just am pumped about this whole thing. And with integrated access management, and with nodes made possible, as Daniela, you said, by blockchain and the advances in blockchain technology, making, de-geekifying this. So generally, it looks like your normal services. We have built an incredible world for digital work.
And Tim, really, that's a huge piece because, someone can go on and build a smart contract on Ethereum, but they need somebody to actually do that for them, code it, etc. And to the point that you're just making here, we've taken blockchain from the geeky coding to mainstream. So that you don't need to understand what's happening in the background. You just need to click, upload something, sign it, send it, done.
You know what? I don't have a clue about what all the compression algorithms are in Netflix. I say that all the time. Yeah, and right. I don't care. I just need to get my show done. Well, guess what? People need to get work done. And the other thing we talked about in that prior slide was small businesses are emerging. Let's not forget there's a ton of people out of work. Let's not forget the industries we lost and shifted. Who's traveling right now? What do airlines look like? What do hotels look like? What's the hospitality industry look like? It was fueled by business people who are all working out of their homes and off their devices. So today, all of that network effect and everything that we had flying all over the world, I was one of them, I was a road warrior, has changed. And we now have provided a solution that actually brings that collaboration together. And the cool stuff we're going to be launching, guys, is so amazing that it's never existed on the planet. The idea of streaming work. But here's a few of the things that we worked on over the year that are live and are out there now. We worked on the mortgage banking industry, and over $2 billion in operational revenues are going through this model that we've created already. It's just like, boom, there we go. So that Lender Key project is just taking off. Fusion Funder and the way that we're dealing with tokenized models for businesses, and the really great stuff we're doing to make sure people don't get fooled by either founders who don't really know how to run a business, and we can see all of the results of the social interaction on, does a business model even make sense? Well, you know, when we've had founders come up and tell their story, some of them got great views and great reviews. Some of them got completely ignored or were way too complex. That protects investors, right, Daniele, before they go throwing their money at something because of the hype. Before it's a good marketing story, or maybe a good, some guy out there is a good promoter for finance, but pays no attention to what it's like to actually be able to operate a business, especially a business rely on digital platforms. So Fusion Funder has come through this whole market, and now we're doing that for things like NFTs, so that we bring legitimacy into the marketplace. We talk about compliance all the time, but legitimacy, real legitimacy for these kinds of business models is critical. I'm sorry, Daniel.
We spend day and nights in research prior launching Fusion Funder without a token economy that is going to be live very, very soon. But we have taken the risk at the entrepreneurial level to launch a Fusion Funder without a token as the fuel of the ecosystem. But at the same time, we have done it in line of the mid to long-term view of what Fusion Funder is and what Fusion Funder it will be, which is, so first of all, to expose the good and the bad of any project towards the community, with very, very neutral view, without influencing like central platforms doing. So we want to be censorship resistant in the way we behave in the space, without having yet embraced the kind of a token economy and decentralizing all these interactions. But we have done it centrally. We have decentralized. So this means we have allowed people to expose their ideas, and we have freely allowed people on the other side, without any type of influence, to have a thoughtful decision whether it makes sense based on what is being delivered, without any filter, whether it makes sense for them to step into it. And most of the time, the answer of this was, no, thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
So in fact, that's a good feedback we had, because if you don't influence, at the end of the day, you have spontaneous behavior in the space. And the more and more we're gonna show towards our community how all those interactions work in a fully decentralized and Web 3.0 fashion.
Exactly. Yeah. And Daniele, as you point out, like we got to see that with this massive exposure that Dan and team led through Asia. And we got to see this massive exposure of stories and business models and ideas that were fairly complex and things like that. And the community spoke. The community spoke before anybody really got engaged in something that was going to be an up and a down. Provide capital just to see it evaporate without true leadership, because it's leadership behind businesses that make businesses work. It's tenacity. It's the
hard work too, right, Tim?
What's that?
I said it's hard work. Raising money is hard work. And
raising money is hard work. Running a business, once you have the money, is even harder, Dan.
Correct. Yeah.
Writing, understanding that, over here was my idea and what I was thinking as a leader, and over here is what the world tells me or perceives about my idea and the work I've done. I have to be able to adapt to that.
Right.
The biggest business models in the world and the most successful ones are the leaders, are driven by the leaders who you have to respect, who looked at their business and actually took in honest reality feedback and said, you know what, that's not going to work. I'll give you one little company that did that. It's just this one little company. You probably never heard of it. It's called Twitter.
Twitter. I was just thinking that.
They started out podcasting. Right. And so often we get these founders and these entrepreneurs that are so blinded and in these tunnel vision things. This is my idea. and it's going to work. Well, you better listen to what the world is saying and what you really have behind that idea that you can pivot into and create. And if you're not listening to that, really, at the end of the day, your business model won't ever work.
There is one step more that it really matters, which is the users, the community, which is the most valuable piece of the network. So we should not forget that a company can raise money out of investors. But in this case, if investors are retail people, let's say as part of a crowdfunding offering, have you ever seen some stats that are telling you what is the average ROI over time, 1 year, 5 years, of the people investing 1 penny into a crowdfunding offering? You don't see that.
Right.
If you're going to start these numbers, you will be astonished to see how poor the performance is over the market. So this means, let's say a project can raise, 1 million, 500,000, 5 million. Doesn't really matter unless all the people that put in 5 million makes money. So in that case, it makes sense. But if they raise capital and at the end they don't deliver, or the stock underperformed and the people losing money instead of getting money, it's not a good deal.
That's right. And so when we built Fusion Funder and back into this idea of a different kind of financial space, what we saw during the year was GameStop. We saw what happened under the fuel of community speak and how powerful that could be. So this idea of community speak, community due diligence, community analytics, community feedback, as you say, Daniele, is so powerful. The structure around it is fascinating, and we're going to get into that structure. Things like NFTs, the new tokenized asset funding and tokenized crowdfunding models and things like that. And then finally, we built and are driving this new idea of supply chain. We built out in this cannabis industry, which is really the agricultural industry, the industry of where something literally comes that we're going to consume out of the ground and into our world, and how that's going to flow. So these are real use cases that in our world we built, we saw, and we came forward with. We saw that in the UK and the world, this idea of open banking came, and this speaks to your point, Daniele, of what the dollars are, where the smart money, if you will, is headed. The smart money is there. The smart money's in decentralization, in digitization, in looking at the most entrenched industry in the world and saying, this is here, this is happening, this is now.
Absolutely.
So from that, we saw an emergence of, that came out of the blue. And really,
where did that come from?
What? And how many times did that happen in 2020? It's just like, what? And even in the first quarter of 2021, you're like, what? $70 million for a piece of digital art. Like, even the guy who built it, I was watching an interview, he's like, yeah, I didn't call that. And, who did? But it started this wave, and the future starts becoming very clear that as soon as we unlock, and we've been working on all of that foundational elements, as soon as we unlock this complexity, digital assets were born. They were just born. I don't know how else to say it. They just kind of showed up. It's like I showed up. I wasn't a planned baby either. I just showed up one day, and the story goes in my family, my dad looked after having 2 daughters and said, what are we going to do with him? Right. And I still get that in my family. What are we going to do with him? So with this, we ended up with this massively booming Uniswap environment, this decentralized environment. This actually got recognized. It got recognized during COVID. It didn't evolve during COVID. Uniswap was built actually in 2018. But the cool part about this, And what really is important from a standpoint of what we were looking at back then is, what would the world be? That's where we were at. What would the world be like? And what were we building? Well, we were building all of this already. So we built the BCERTin, and that was already engaged. Our BCERTin, which we're using right now, our one-to-one me, which we're about to launch, which are these incredible communities for collaboration. And today we can collaborate with vendors, we can collaborate with anybody without even having to be in our application. You just use a web browser. We have BlockCerts we talked about. We've got this idea of the BCERTin vault, where you can protect everything from your identity to your health records to your NFTs, right? In your vault and your wallet. We created this fusion funder, and we're launching our WBCERT, our wrapped BCERT that enters into these liquidity pools on Uniswap in the next few weeks. This is all coming out, and it's coming out in the next few weeks because we've been drilling into this for literally, in some cases, years.
Tim, can I spend just a second on the wallet here?
Yes.
Because, more and more, perhaps people shopping, buying physical wallet, like, I don't know, whatever, Armani wallets might look fashion. While, in the Web 3.0, which is a decentralized version of the current Web 2.0, where platforms take decision on their own data or for their own clients. So where they take decisions on behalf of their community. So we're going in a shift, and we are the first of the first to doing this. So there will be a shift where people have their wallet, and into their wallet, they use the wallet as a means of authentication to whatever platform they want to interact with. So no username, no password, just the wallet, and the interaction between the page or the site and the person will go through the wallet. And here, the wallet will be where you want to own data, where you want to own digital stuff, including NFT. And the wallet, you will see, there's already a couple of experiments there. You will already see that the wallet will be connected to the platform as a means to showcase some tokens that have kind of a visual shape. So as you can show, for example, the NFT that you own towards a filter of a platform. So this means it's like you want to see your brand name in the t-shirt. So the wallet is the means of authenticating what do you want to show to the world.
And so
but it's up to you. You have the power, right, Daniele? You have the power to share or not to share.
Correct.
So,
and I think that becomes so important because
correct.
In the current world of blockchain, and this is your Web 3.0, Daniele, it's bringing all these Web 3.0 tools together. Like this month, this is happening in May, guys. But what's so exciting about that is if you look at the circle here, we started out with this digital business cloud. We started out with this secure virtual space technology. And you go from that wallet that gets you in there to what is the ID? What is that authentication? And that could be anything. It could be your assets. It could be your health record. It could be, but you control it. It can be your business data. You control it. That's the important part. The integrated access management services now come in, they talk to that and they say, yeah, that's Dan, that's Daniele, that's Tim. This is you. Now you make the decisions, not somebody else making the decision for you of what you can do. You make the decisions, not somebody tracking you. You make the decisions. You decide what gets tracked and what doesn't get tracked. And that all happens with this BlockCerts blockchain. And out here, we have this security layer that's monitoring all this and that's trying to protect all of that through layer upon layer upon layer to what? To give cloud power to the people. That's the idea. That's why we say cloud power to the people. It's so important to understand that. So think about that. Your biggest asset that most people will ever own is their house, and the biggest borrowing they'll ever do is their mortgage. Think about how important that is. Think about that for your health now. And all of that is happening through this BCERT token and WBCERT token that we're helping enable there, because those tokens represent the licenses of the community that you don't rent, you own. This is software that you own. And I saw a meme the other day. I'm trying to get my daughter to send it to me. She said, "Hey, Dad, look at this." And it was Adobe, and it said, "We don't sell software, we rent it." And it's so true. Ouch. Ouch. Well, of course, how many times do I get locked out of that software? I'm like, every day there's another way to, lock me down because, this business model is over. It's over. And we've worked so hard to bring that decentralization there. So,
and Tim, this is called, for those that never heard this before, we're entering the so-called ownership economy.
Right.
So where you own the things that are with whom you're interacting with. So being your NFT, being your tokens, being your
digital business, Daniele.
Yeah.
Like who really owns their digital business if all of their digital business is sitting on Salesforce.com and all of your data is on Salesforce.com or now Salesforce and Slack, and you don't pay your fee? Who owns your business?
Or what happens if your credit card happens to expire and you didn't know about it and you're locked out over the weekend?
Even better, I've got today my aha moment for today with Google. So I have an allowance on the Google Photos. And if you go beyond 90%, okay, you're paying 100%. Right. But if you're beyond 90, so it's below how much you pay, you have continuous reminder, hey, you're going to be stopped. You're going to be stopped very soon. You're going to be stopped. I'm paying for 100. So if I'm using 10, are you telling me that I need to use 90? No, you don't. So don't bother me if I'm using 90 out of 100 that I'm paying in advance for the next 365 years.
That's right. So and what I love about this new model is if anybody's tired of being a hostage, then this is really a model for you. I don't know. Some people might like being held hostage. I hate it. And one of the quotes I used to have when I had a physical office on the wall was, "I must build a system of my own or be enslaved by another man." And the reality is we have been enslaved by the model of technology and software. I was trying to run a video meeting with my family yesterday, and all of our tools that we have right here were locked out on Apple and Safari. So then we went in to do a recording for a birthday party on FaceTime. Oh my God, it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. I'm like, this is 2021. How can this be so hard? Yeah. And I do have a Apple device over here. I lifted it up from the doorstop I use it for, plugged it back in, and it was really, really amazing that we were going through that.
Well, one of the things just to note here of everything you're talking about, we're talking about here, Tim, is just the private business cloud. And whether you're a business, keeping things private is important. And if you're a consumer, obviously your business is important, whatever you're doing. And it's giving you the keys and eliminating the handcuffs that we've all had to allow us to do business differently on a digital basis in the world.
I don't hear Tim. I think you're muted.
There we go. Can you hear me now? Okay.
There we go.
Yes. All right. So that's why we brought together the BCERT tokens, all this technology. We're bringing it to Uniswap. We're launching it soon. And we're bringing cloud power to the people. We're bringing a cloud platform on a distributed basis, an entire cloud platform for one-click work. It will be one-click everything. It's going to be a one-click world when we get finished with this. And the most important part is it's going to be the token holder community's world. It's not going to be ours. That's what distributed ledger technology should be. Distributed ledger technology, DLT, pounded into our heads at Oxford years ago, is blockchain. That's what it is. It's got a name, blockchain, and it's DLT. DLT means you get to control your work, your destiny. It's booming in the speculation market. We've seen that. It is a fundamental that literally every enterprise knows is critical now. And a year ago, when we started the world from here, they didn't. And frankly, the world that we've learned from COVID and from what's happened in the last 12 months and the things that we've seen, most of us never expected to see in our lifetime.
Right.
I got an email yesterday from one of our very ardent token holders from way back when we were really way ahead of the market. And he said, you know, Tim, 5,000 people today will die from COVID. And Alan has created a letter to President Biden. We're going to share that with our community because it's true. Like, we shouldn't centralize, obviously, centralizing medications and prescriptions and blocking things that save lives. I don't think anybody would agree with that anymore. I don't think people would agree with people not being included in the financial system anymore. I don't think we should be blocked because we've got outdated rules and models that protect centralized businesses and keep other businesses from finding ways to create jobs. I don't think that's going to work. I think we need the open structure organizations. Do we need regulatory? Do we need frameworks? Yes. That's why over a year ago, we started working with the Digital Financial Observatory at Columbia University and backed by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Obviously, back in 2015, they saw this coming, and the academics went to work and built these amazing models. Let's adopt them. Let's do it fast because the world needs it fast. We need it now. When will the exit come from COVID? Do we really know? No. Did we really know what Amazon would look like in 1999 or 2000 to 2021? No.
Books. Right.
You know, we put it in perspective. Facebook didn't exist. It didn't even exist in those days. So these things, the world is moving at incredible lightning speed, and this tokenomic model, tokenomics will be our mandate. We're creating a tokenomics model, and we've got an amazing team we're going to introduce the world to about all these services. One of our lead genius tokenomics engineers calls it financial sciences. And he said to me the other day, he said, you know, Tim, this is a new discipline. I'm like, I know, Sean, it is. And that's amazing that you guys recognize this and you're going to bring this next generation forward. So there's two places to be. You can be in the hype, as Daniele always talks about this, and Christoph did last week. The hype, pump and dump, I'm not going to say it, S-coin world, or you can be in the world from here, which is what's really happening in digital business. The way that you can be there with us is to become part of our token community and start building around this. You can be there with us by creating a model around BlockCertIn. And when we give that, we're going to give it away. We're going to let you have the access to that free so that you can get started in building digital businesses. Will it be perfect? No. Is this perfect?
I think
we couldn't get on today, so
it's more perfect than that.
We're inventing the world.
I think it's important to say, first of all, so that we are, the pioneers, said before, just to give you some numbers. So if you take Uniswap, and Uniswap is the first decentralized exchange. Now there is also Pancake, which is, growing really, really quickly. But Uniswap has been born with an experiment that has been launched by Vitalik Buterin back in 2017 with I have the article. He just launched an article in a forum of a university in Zurich saying, hey, can you solve this problem? And a guy, which is a mechanical engineer, which is the founder of Uniswap, has taken his kind of a tweet, and he has developed the technology behind this. And right now, and the Uniswap is the most sophisticated decentralized exchange in the world. So we are the first of the first of the first. So Uniswap, you know how many people trading on Uniswap right now? There are 71,000 people in the entire world. Okay, so this means which is generating 100 billion a month or so. So this means having a chance to be part of this huge movement in a place like Uniswap, which is Uniswap is building the truly decentralized version of Wall Street. You cannot imagine the complexity behind this and what Uniswap will unveil on the version 3 on May the 5th.
I can imagine the complexity.
Yeah, because there will be.
We built it for cloud every day and night, Tim.
That's right.
Yeah, but the people that we're gonna start to have their first trading experience with our token, it will be a free. It was not a free ticket, but it's a ticket to the space,
To the world.
to the world.
Future. To the future.
We are entering into the brand new world, and we are among the first. When you're the first, you never know what is going to happen tomorrow. But the beauty is the journey, not the certainty, what is going to happen. So,
well, and I love that, Daniele, because as I said earlier, somebody looked at what we've done and said it's a labor of love. It's been a passion. I will say that. It's sometimes I've loved it, sometimes I've hated it, sometimes, we've all wanted to quit and throw it away, but it's too important. It's too important to just let the, flavor of the day distract you, or the hype distract you, or the naysayers distract you, or all the people who don't want to listen. There's more people who don't want to listen and say you're wrong. And there's a very, very few that ever want to say, wow, that could be. That could be. And you can't ever predict the future. You can't, right?
You cannot, but as long as, let's say, you're not dependent on, I made a big shift by reading a book about this because I was doing continuous prediction. I was trying to assess probability from a statistical and stochastical point of view. And then I end up in, messing up with overcomplication of my decisions all the time. And then, so I started to shift and saying, I don't have to assign kind of random weights to something I simply cannot predict. So I better stop and I focus on what really matters today. So this means, just to give you also an example, today I've received, I don't know how many messages, probably 10 or 15 about Dogecoin. A lot of people say, hey, May the 8th, Elon Musk will talk about a Doge, and Doge will go to 10x versus today. And I said to him, well, I don't care.
Yeah. Well, he's also going to be on Saturday Night Live, so there you go.
I don't want. That's not my thing. So this means it's not matter how much it's going to be. It's not my thing. I don't want to be part of it. I want to be part of something that is meaningful for me, regardless of how long it's going to be. That's the message.
Well, and Daniele, something that you said I think is really important to note is that decentralization, it's like building a brand new Wall Street, and you have to look at shifts. They're not just micro shifts, but they're global macro shifts that are changing the world, and that's what we're all a part of right now. So
exactly.
And we haven't, believe me, we haven't seen anything so far.
We haven't even.
This is just getting started.
If I do see from the macro, and looking at the credit market, there are 300 trillion. It's a very conservative estimation. 300 trillion in bonds,
right?
And 26% have negative yields out of it. We don't know what is going to happen to the interest rate. And I don't really, I'm not really focused on the inflation because inflation is something pretty random, so to say. But so because we're living somehow in an inflated world anyway. So 300 trillion of bond that are somehow pegged to fiat, which is the basing at the higher rate because of the money printing machine. How this is going to be in the next year, the next 3 years. That will be massive in the
And
position.
so when we see a market like the largest lending market in the world, which is mortgage, at somewhere around 17 to 20 trillion dollars just in North America alone, you have to look at that. So I would guess mortgage represents 10-15% of the bond and borrowing market. Look what it did in 2008 when the market melted down. And nobody knew at the beginning of COVID what banks would look like. They've been incredibly profitable as interest rates have dropped because it made money so free for people to come get it, and the margins went up. And same thing with DeFi, it emerged. So how do we know what the future is? And well, the reality is we don't. But as this guy said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. Right. And if there's one thing that is a passion for me, is just create it. Just as the old saying goes, just do it. Well, we did. We told you what we were going to do a year ago. We did it. We're going to continue to do that. And what I'd like everybody to do is just take a moment and think about, when I come back to this presentation and back a year from now, where will the world be? Where will we be? And what will it look like? What's the world from here gonna be when we get there? So you never can predict the future, but you sure as heck can have your hand in changing it. So
and Tim, to that point, join our community. We would love to have you with us as we navigate this next year. And especially May is going to be a pretty exciting month for us. And we'd love to have you as a part of that journey. Make sure you click on the thumbs up below, and also subscribe if you haven't already done so. I know we've got to kind of sign off here and get going.
And we've got another Telegram group out there called @BlockCerts. So just look for us on Telegram, join us there, follow us on Twitter @BlockCertsBuzz. You can also follow our parent company that we started all this, which is @Finaeos, FINAEOS. That's got a big Telegram group or a growing Telegram community, Dan tells me. So people are still following us from years ago when we started this on Twitter.
And just a remark from a token point of view. So in case you might receive a kind of a spontaneous message soliciting anything with regard to our token offering, please always make sure you refer to our official channels.
Exactly.
Because there are people trying to impersonate us in what we're doing. So you should always start from the official channel and going down from there instead of approaching eventually someone that spontaneously come to you offering something with regard to BCERT and BlockCerts.
And we've got a global team. We're on 24/7. We're on 5 continents. We will always respond to you on one of those channels. On the official channels, we are always available anywhere. So again, as Daniele said, there's a lot of misinformation out there that you have to be careful of to protect yourself. And so please always reach out to us. You've got us here on YouTube. We monitor everything. And we've got teams in 14 countries around the globe. It will be better if you understand that you're talking to the real guys, and that's a big part of what we're here to reshape in the world at BlockCerts. So thanks for bringing that up, Daniele. And what I'd like to say, we're out of time, but thank you. Please, we're still in lockdowns. The world this isn't over. We're going to get through it all, but stay safe, stay healthy, and for goodness sake, get digital, get tokenomic, get it in there, and be all about the world from here.
Great.
Build the future.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Everybody.
It's going to be crazy. Thanks. Bye.